Hi, my name is Signore. I'm a sales engineer and I've been at the journey for about 7 years now. However, I'm Italian and was born in Italy. Like most Italians, I was raised in a Catholic home and Catholic faith, and always had a hope that there was a God. However, I was unsure, and then came 1994. I call 1994 the worst and best year of my life. The good was that I was engaged to be married in July of 1994. The bad was that my father was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor that later led to his death. My fiancée was a born-again believer, but she never talked to me about her faith and wasn't really living it out when I met her. Spring of 1994, my father's condition worsened. In fact, the doctors said that he may not make it through 2 weeks, no less 2 months. Because of my father's condition, we had to postpone the wedding. And I spent the next few months caring for my father alongside my mother, slowly watching my father die before my very eyes. This took a toll on my fiancée, and in June of that year, she told me she no longer wanted to get married, nor that she wanted to be engaged to me. I was desperate to get her back, so on the advice of a friend, I sought out help from a Christian pastor. But on the way to meet the pastor, she turns to me and says, "This is the last time I'm going to do this." At that point, it became true to me that I had lost her. We walked in to talk to the pastor, and we both said our side of the story. And at the end of it, he turns to me and says, "There's nothing that I can do for your relationship because it seems like it's not mutual." He looked at me and saw my depression and asked me the most important question I've ever had in my life. He asked me if I'd ever asked Jesus in my heart. I told him I didn't even know what that meant. He proceeded to explain that it was just a profession of faith, a confession of sins, and just making a U-turn. At that point, had he offered me a 357 Magnum, I would have accepted and used it on myself. But what he offered, I accepted. We prayed a simple prayer, and when I lifted my head from that prayer, it was like 1,000 pounds were removed from my shoulders. For me, it was supernatural. I felt a peace beyond comprehension, a peace I'd never felt before. At that moment, God became real for me. But the story doesn't end there. On the night of November 18, 1994, my father was in lots of pain, and his breathing had become fatigued. I felt a prompting from God that I should probably ask my father about his faith. So at that point, I asked my father if he would like to accept Jesus in his heart. And with the fatigued breathing, he said yes. And just as the pastor had done a few months earlier, I did the same with my father. On November 19, 1994, at 1:30 in the morning, 2 hours after my father accepted Jesus in his heart, passed away. To God be all the glory for using me in my father's salvation. I know I will see him again in heaven. 1994 wasn't an easy one for me, but I'm thankful to God for having brought just the exact trouble in my life in order to open my heart to himself. It changed my eternity, and it changed my father's too.